Boom, boom. How's it going? How's it going? It is I again, your boy TJ Tara Jack, and welcome to M5, where we talk about anything and everything around real estate. And like it is, I go my boy, the guy who took the test on town planning and I didn't, right? And it is Dumisani. Dumisani, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. The sun is out. The rain is giving us some break, even though
Yeah.
it sometimes get a bit hot. You know, with us people, we always complain. If it rains too much. If it's hot, it's too hot. So, but it's the weather. What can one say?
The topic that we want to talk to today, it's one of those topics. It, in one of the books that I like, there was a guy. I'm gonna give an example. There was a guy who wanted to go and get married, and he went on to ask for marriage in hand to his father-in-law. And his father-in-law says, "Yes, you can take my daughter." But actually, this father-in-law had around about two daughters. And so the guy came through and he says, "Okay, fine, you can work for me for 7 years. And after that, you get my daughter." After 7 years, he got the daughter, but he got the wrong daughter. And the guy was like, "Yo, hold on. She's not the one that I wanted. I wanted the other one." And unfortunately, he had to work another 7 years. Dumisani, you know that guy, right?
I know that guy very well.
Awesome stuff. This can
Yes.
also happen at the council. So you can go and apply for something else, and the council can give you something that you didn't ask for. And when that happens, what do you do? So, in a natural fact, we all know in town planning, you can request for, let's say, from agriculture to maybe residential for, because you want to do a development. But the council goes through the whole paperwork and they give you residential too. Dumisani, is this common? Can this happen?
Yes, this can happen like in any other profession or in any other life challenge that can happen. That is why it's very important that as a town planner, when you apply, you
Mhm.
get a proper mandate or a proper understanding from your client from the word go. What is it that they want to do? What is it that they want to ultimately achieve? Then you also guide them to say professionally and in terms of planning principles and what we can get from council. It's this and this and this. Are we in agreement? Then both of you say, yes, we are in agreement. You submit to council, you do all the processes, public participation, circulation, it goes to technical committees, it gets approved. I would request that prior to any application being approved, that's why it's important to form working relationships with your colleagues at council, to say, can I ask that prior to you submitting the conditions to your manager, to your director, to your committee that approves, can I just have a side of them to view what you are actually granting us so that we know, are we granted what we have applied for or has it changed? And I've been so fortunate that 80% of our work, we had been so fortunate to be able to have signed off the approvals prior to them being signed. There's only one or two where they would normally refuse to say, you know what you have applied for and all of that, but we find ways of finding out. So at times they can grant you what you did not apply for. So immediately get an approval letter. Don't just get excited, because I always say to my office, don't phone the client before you have read it and assure that this is what the client requested, because you'll create an excitement in them. Then later on, you'll have to apologize. So read and ensure that what you have applied for is what they have granted you, because if you can be able to pick up those mistakes early, it's going to save you a whole lot of hassles, and it can be amended quicker than if you leave it for late.
Right, right. What causes such kind of things, Dumisani? I mean, um, the laws clearly designate, a one to a two to a three to a four and five. Pretty clear. I know some pieces of projects could be mixed use and things like that. But is that human error, maybe?
It can be a human error. It can be also a misunderstanding of an application that you are applying
Right.
for. Let me give one of the realistic examples of what happened to me just yesterday. We've been having this other application. It's in Westin. So they asked to get students' rights, okay? So on a consent, they were only gonna get 8 students. But when we were doing a rezoning, they were gonna get 5 units. So a unit can have a maximum, at least in that area, of 4 bedrooms, okay? Then meaning that if it's 4 bedrooms and they were to have 2 students in each bedroom, the numbers, it's far higher than the one where you have 8, you know? Mm-hmm. So the agreement was that this application will be lodged in order for us to get the maximum of 5 units. But when the approval came, it didn't read the number of units. It read the number of beds, and the beds are lower because it says you are approved for single beds that are 20, maximum of 20. But when you go back and you look at what you are applying for, if they were to give you 5 units, you'd be able to get about 40 beds, you see. So that's where now the challenge came. Now, this morning I had to go back to council and say, but this is not what we have applied for. Then to only find out that we were trying to assist them scientifically to say, how did we arrive to this unit? So there was an error of the number of bedrooms that it can have. So they took it from the number of beds and they said, no, we will cap them at 20. But I said, that's not what we were applying for. We're giving you a scenario to say, if this were to be beds, the scenario would work this way scientifically when we calculate. So they worked from the calculation that they didn't notice that it was just an example. And it's good that we found it early. I even informed the client to say, we have the approval, however, this is the challenge. Then they said, please send us the approval. Let us read it and ensure that we are reading it the same way. Then they were happy to say, yes, you are reading it the same way as us. And thank you for noticing it, than to give it to us. Then later on, we are caught with this challenge, especially when you submit your building plans. That's where issues start to come to say, no, but what you are drawing is not what has been approved, you see. So those challenges do happen. My advice is read the approval thoroughly. And if you work with 2 or 3 people, read it, give it to them, read, sit down and discuss to say, are we at the same understanding? Because remember, the Town Planners at Council also, they work on what you have presented on paper. You are not there to elaborate more to say, what do you really mean? So at times they interpret it according to their experience, their training, and at times according to what they see on paper, you see. So that's why you have to be very clear. If you're applying for number of units, be specific. I'm applying for number of units, which is 60 dwelling units per hectare, but it's gonna give me 6 units on site, right? You put more than to put less. So I'm saying 60 units per hectare, but on site, it's gonna allow me to have 6. So they now, okay, 60 units, but on site, they are asking for 6 units. Then they'll be able to grant you that way.
You know, Dumisani, what you're talking about there is misinterpretation.
Yes.
We're reading the same thing, but differently. And it's a common problem in a diversified environment. You know, in my team, in my office, you know, there's guys that are whose first language is Zulu, Xhosa, Ndebele, Afrikaans, Shona, and all of those other languages. And you find that the moment you're the moment you are reading something in English, potentially, or even writing it, potentially the translation has lost or has changed the meaning there. And because you just can't like read it on the fly, now it means something totally different. And I'm always saying, guys, to the office, guys, I don't think that it is fair for us, you know, when you do a piece of work, you just throw it over to the next person, because sometimes what you have written is not what is being heard on the other side. It is important to make sure that you engage the other person, you know. I sent out that email. What I meant to say was, you know, and engage that person, because now when they read it, there is context, or when they are seeing it, you know. So I think conversation, what I'm hearing from you, engagement is very important in this game as well, where you kind of like engage others and say, yes, I gave you the paperwork, but actually, you know what, this is what we're trying to portray. Does it make sense to you? And if the agreement is there, then the paperwork is kind of like formality in my view. That's what you're saying there, isn't it?
Yes, yes, because you know what happened is at times you this happens in any field. At times you say, okay, they are capping us at 80 units per hectare. Let me apply for 100 and see what they will say. But you know that it's 80. So sometimes you try and say, let me take chances. Maybe I can score 1 or 2 properties more. If you have a town planner, and if you are a town planner that understand that communication, especially in town planning, communication is important, because I communicate with my client who has appointed me to take all the stress and relieve him from running around to council. And I communicate with the town planners at council. At times I communicate with a traffic engineer that we might have needed a traffic impact on this application. So if you're not a good communicator, a whole lot of things can go wrong, because even the traffic impact, it can come back being incorrect because you did not provide information, like you say, and follow up to say, do you understand what we need you to do? Because if you do not do that, you will sit at council day in and out trying to correct approvals because you are not communicating. And if you are a good communicator, I can say it, you know, with pride to say, majority of the guys at council, they normally pick up a phone and say, I've sent you an email. I think there's an error of what you are applying for too much than what we can provide. So can we find a common ground to say, the maximum we can give you is this? Maybe you've said to your client, they are going to give me 20 apples, but they come and say, no, we can only give you 15 apples, you know? So they will phone, they will send an email to say, maybe let's have a meeting and let's come with a common understanding to say, due to infrastructure, due to other things, this is the cap that we can grant. Then they'll even afford you an opportunity to go and speak to your client and come back and put it in writing to say, after our meeting where you said A, B, C, D, we agree that we see that the numbers are high, then even the client has agreed to say, where we find common ground, they will be comfortable with. So communication in this case, it's very important.
Awesome stuff. I really like that. And I think it goes across board, from a relationship that you get between brothers, husband and wife, family communication is key. I really like that. Now, Dumisani, in conclusion, right? What do you do then if you get into a position like that? You've been given something else that's totally not what you were looking for. You have it now, right? This communication that we're talking about, your town planner missed it, and now you are looking for zone 4, res 4, and now you've got res 2. It's approved. It's there on your door. It's documented. Is there recourse?
Yes. Okay. The first thing I would say, people must not be alarmed. Don't be now running around, and because some of the clients start panicking and, you know, cursing and all of that. But I'm saying this is something that you still have control of, especially if you pick it up earlier, because you will have at least 90 days to come up with a mitigation plan. The law allows you that. The bylaws would allow you for 90 days prior to it being promulgated, because promulgation meaning formalizing it to say now the scheme is in operation. Because once it comes into operation, you'll have to rezone. And remember this, please, everyone note this and highlight it wherever you are noting. If you rezone, the law says you cannot rezone the same property again within 24 months unless you apply for a special permission for them to grant you consent to correct whatever that has been done, you see. So you'll have the 90 days to correct that. But I'll say, do not wait for the last day. The first day you see it, go to council, speak with town players. Don't go there fighting, because I think that is another thing that we approach. It's important to say, you know, my brother, my sister, I think there's a misunderstanding here. This is what we were applying for. Where we have the same understanding, then hear their side of the story, then find common ground of correcting it, because it can be corrected. And they will say to you, give us 7 days or 21 days, we will correct. However, if it's downscaling, you are fine. But at times, if it's going up, they might say to you, let's look at your adverts also, because if you advertised also incorrectly so, and the interpretation that between the two of you has been clarified to say, you were trying to say C, but you said Z. then you might just need only to re-advertise so that legally it becomes correct. Because if it's not advertised, it means you are actually lying to the other stakeholders, your neighbors and everyone else, to say, oh, I was applying for this, but I actually got that. So there's a recourse. And within that recourse, town planners just have to be proactive, assure your client to say this can be corrected, speak with the town planners at council to say, this is not war, this is not a battle, it was just a misunderstanding. Let's find a common ground and clear that matter and have it finalized. But you wait up until it's promulgated. That's where the challenges are going to come, because now you must apply for a consent to be able to resubmit the application. And when you resubmit, 90% of the chances that you are going to spend the same time you have spent when it started from scratch, because then it will have to go and recirculate and everything else. So at times, just try and be careful that you don't put things till the last end, because then it can even dent your name as a town planner, that your professional ethics and your professional work, it's not actually professional, but you don't take your clients also serious.
Awesome stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, we was talking to Dumisani, who is my co-host. When it comes to town planning, he knows town planning better than I do. But you know, I am learning slowly, and I am now a little bit closer to what he's got. But in terms of implementation, whew, dololo, this side of the fence. But that side of the fence, he knows his stuff. Now, here is the thing. In conclusion, you can apply for whatever that you're applying. When you get it wrong, or should I say when the council does get it wrong, they do, human error, or any of the other reasons, right? You had it from Dumisani. You got 90 days to rectify it. That's number one. Number two, you got a town planner who can rectify it for you. And then the last thing is that if you've got a town planner on your team, any of these things shouldn't be a problem to you. Now, the question I want to ask of you, do you actually have a team planner, a town planner on your team? Well, I'm over and out. It is I, TJ Tarajek. We will check you out on the next video where we talk about anything and everything around real estate, but in particular, town planning.